Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something really quite incredible. It feels like science fiction, honestly.
It really does.
Contact lenses. But not just any contact lenses. These let you see infrared light.
That's right. Forget the bulky goggles, the power packs.
Hmm.
This is different.
Totally different. Just pop in a lens, and suddenly you're perceiving this whole invisible spectrum. It's like gaining a superpower.
Exactly. And the research behind it, just published in Cell on May 22nd, 2025, lays it all out.
Okay, so infrared. Let's just quickly define that. We're talking near infrared, right?
Yes, near infrared.
Uh,
Thick wavelengths between about 800 and 1600 nanometers. That's just beyond the red light humans can normally see. Tiny wavelengths, billionths of a meter.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive, understand how these lenses work, what they could be used for, and, why this is such a big deal.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so first off, these lenses, they look normal, transparent.
Completely transparent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wearable, like standard contacts. And crucially, no batteries, no wires.
Yeah.
Power free.
Power-free. That's amazing. So what's the trick? How do they actually let you see this invisible light?
The magic, if you want to call it that, is inside the lens material itself. It's embedded with these specially engineered nanoparticles.
Nanoparticles. Tiny tech.
Incredibly tiny. Think of them as little engines. They're designed specifically to absorb that incoming infrared light, the light our eyes normally just ignore.
Mm-hmm.
And then they convert its energy, they shift it, basically, into light within the visible spectrum. The 400 to 700 nanometer range.
Yeah.
The colors we see every day.
So the nanoparticles catch the infrared and sort of translate it into visible light right there on your eye.
That's a great way to put it. A tiny light converter right on the surface of your eye.
Wow. Okay, so that's a key difference from traditional night vision, right? Those things are bulky, need power.
And they usually block out your normal vision, too. It's one or the other.
But with these lenses, you're saying you can see the normal world and the infrared world simultaneously, like an overlay.
Exactly that. It's additive. You see both. And, it's worth mentioning how far this tech has come. Early experiments involved injecting similar nanoparticles directly into the eyes of mice.
Ooh, injecting.
Yeah, so putting them into a contact lens is, well, it's a massive step forward. Much less invasive, much more practical for people.
Definitely sounds less intimidating. Okay, so they didn't just dream this up. They actually tested these lenses. What happened?
Oh, they did some really clever tests. They put the lenses on mice. Then they gave the mice a choice, a dark box or a box lit only by infrared light. The mice wearing the lenses clearly preferred the dark box. They avoided the infrared lit one. Mice without the lenses, they showed no preference at all. Couldn't see the infrared.
Interesting. So the behavior changed.
Yeah.
Any physical signs?
Yes, that too. In the mice with lenses, their pupils actually constricted when the infrared light was on, just like they would with bright visible light.
Ah, a reflex response.
Exactly. And they even did brain imaging. It confirmed activity in the visual processing centers when the mice were exposed to the infrared. So multiple lines of evidence.
That's pretty convincing for the mice studies. But the big question,
Yeah.
what about humans? Did people actually put these things in and, see infrared?
They did. Human trials were conducted, and the results were, frankly, pretty clear-cut.
Okay.
Participants wearing the lenses could accurately spot flashing infrared light patterns, almost like infrared Morse code.
Really? They could
Yeah.
decipher signals?
Yes. And they could also tell which direction the infrared light was coming from.
Wow.
The lead researcher, Tian Xu, put it very directly. He said, and I'm quoting here, "It's totally clear-cut. Without the contact lenses, the subject cannot see anything, but when they put them on, they can clearly see the flickering of the infrared light."
No ambiguity there, then. It
Well,
just works.
It seems so. A clear, new visual capability.
Okay, this is fascinating. But you mentioned something earlier that kind of blew my mind. Seeing better with your eyes closed? That makes no sense.
It sounds completely backward, doesn't it? But that's what they found.
How on earth does that work?
It was a surprise finding, yeah. But it comes down to physics, really. How different light wavelengths travel through materials.
Okay.
Near-infrared light, it turns out, penetrates the thin skin of our eyelids much more effectively than visible light does. Visible light gets scattered more.
Ah, so closing your eyes filters out the noise of regular light?
Exactly. You reduce the interference from the ambient visible light,
Yeah.
and that allows the infrared signal, once it's converted by the nanoparticles, to be perceived more clearly.
Oh.
Your eyelids become a kind of filter.
That is genuinely weird. But cool. Okay, so you can see infrared, but the research didn't stop there, right? Something about adding color.
Right. They took it another step further. They engineered different nanoparticles to convert specific infrared wavelengths into specific visible colors.
So not just seeing infrared as like a single bright light, but seeing different shades or types of infrared.
Precisely. For instance, they could make infrared light at, say, 980 nanometers appear as blue light to the wearer, and maybe 808 nanometers shows up as green, and 1532 nanometers is red.
Like assigning colors on a map.
Kind of, yeah. Mapping different infrared channels to different visible colors.
Okay, what's the benefit of doing that? Why not just see it all as, I don't know, white light?
It allows for much richer detail within the infrared spectrum itself. You could potentially distinguish different infrared sources based on their color, or see subtle temperature variations perhaps as different hues. It adds another layer of information.
I see. More data, essentially.
And there's another really exciting potential application they mentioned. For people with color blindness.
How would that work?
Well, as Tina Zhu explained it, you could potentially take a visible light wavelengths that someone struggles to see, say, red light, for someone with red-green color blindness, and use the nanoparticles to convert that light into a different color they can see easily, like green.
Wow, so it could shift colors they can't perceive into colors they can.
Exactly. Make the invisible visible, as he put it, even within the normal visible spectrum for those individuals. That's a really powerful idea.
That really is. Okay, this sounds almost too good to be true. Are there downsides? Limitations to the current tech?
Yes, absolutely. It's still early days in some respects. One current limitation with the contact lens version is resolving very fine details. Spatial resolution isn't quite perfect yet.
Why is that?
It's mainly due to the proximity. The lens is right on the retina, and the converted visible light can scatter just a tiny bit as it's emitted, which can slightly blur fine details.
Like a projector too close to the screen, maybe? You lose some sharpness?
That's a good analogy, yeah. It loses a bit of crispness for very fine patterns, at least with this lens design.
Okay. Is that fixable?
Well, interestingly, the same research team also built a prototype using wearable glasses with the same nanoparticle tech. And because glasses sit further from the eye, allowing for different optics, that system did achieve higher resolution infrared vision.
Ah, so the core tech works for high res, it's just the contact lens form factor that needs tweaking for detail.
It seems that way, yes. Shows the versatility. Another thing to keep in mind, right now the lenses are primarily detecting infrared from LED sources, specific light sources.
Right. Not just passively seeing the heat coming off, say, a person or an animal yet.
Not yet, no. The sensitivity isn't quite there for detecting those lower levels of passive thermal infrared radiation. That's a future goal.
Okay, makes sense. So what are they working on next? What are the immediate goals?
Increasing that sensitivity is a big one, making the nanoparticles better at picking up weaker infrared signals.
Right, to get closer to that passive detection.
Exactly. And also refining the spatial resolution in the contact lens format. Tianqiu mentioned their goal is to work with material scientists and optical experts to, quote, make a contact lens with more precise spatial resolution and higher sensitivity.
Improving both aspects then, detail and faintness.
That seems to be the focus, making it sharper and able to see more subtle infrared signals.
Okay. Even with the current limitations, though, are there uses right now? Where could this be applied soon?
Definitely. Tianqiu's pointed to several immediate possibilities. He said, there are many potential applications right away. For example, flickering infrared light could be used to transmit information in security, rescue, encryption, or anti-counterfeiting settings.
Ah, okay. So using infrared as a hidden communication channel.
Precisely. Covert signals that only someone with the lenses could see. Or using infrared markers for authentication, think anti-counterfeiting labels.
Or search and rescue, seeing signals through smoke or dust.
Yeah, imagine how useful that could be in low visibility situations. Enhanced visual communication and perception where normal sight just isn't enough.
The potential in security and emergency response seems pretty obvious.
Absolutely. And it's worth noting, this research didn't happen in a vacuum. It received significant backing.
Right, you mentioned funding.
Yeah, from major groups like the Science and Technology Innovation 2030 Major Program, the National Key Research and Development Program of China, the Natural Science Foundation, several others. That level of support shows how significant this is perceived to be.
It definitely signals major interest and belief in the potential here. Okay, so let's try and pull this together.
Sounds good.
We've got these transparent, power-free contact lenses. They use amazing little nanoparticles to catch invisible infrared light and turn it into visible light we can see.
Right. Proven in mice, proven in humans.
And with that totally weird but fascinating finding that closing your eyes can actually improve the infrared vision by filtering visible light.
The eyelid filter trick, yeah.
Plus, the potential to color code different infrared wavelengths for more detail and maybe even help people with color blindness perceive certain colors differently.
As whole new dimensions.
There are still things to work on getting finer detail in the lens version, boosting sensitivity for weaker signals.
But the development of the higher-res glasses version shows the core tech is sound and adaptable.
And the immediate applications are already there: security, rescue, secure comms. For me, the real wow factor is just the simplicity for the user, a contact lens, seeing the unseen, and that counterintuitive eyes closed benefit.
It's a really elegant piece of biointegrated technology. Truly pushes the boundaries of what we consider possible for human senses.
It really does, and it makes you think, doesn't it? Looking further out beyond these first uses in security and rescue, what happens when supervision like this becomes more common?
Good question.
How might this tech evolve? Could we get lenses for other parts of the spectrum eventually? What new kinds of information, what new ways of interacting with the world or even with each other might open up? It's a glimpse maybe into a future where our biological senses are just the beginning.
A fascinating thought to end on. What else might become visible?